Hey, what's up, Charleston dog owners? If you're dealing with dog aggression, you're gonna want to make sure you watch this entire video here because we have developed a method here for Charleston dog owners on how to solve dog aggression that nobody else is doing. It's a technique, excuse me, it's a technique called the step back recall that we invented over a decade ago on accident. I know we invented it because it was an accident. We weren't intending to invent it, but we accidentally did, and it's one of the most powerful things I've seen in my 20 some odd years of training dogs for helping dog owners overcome aggression and reactivity and barking and lunging and all sorts of stuff like that. So if you're struggling because you can't get your dog to the beach because there's some aggression issues, you can't take your dog walking out in the woods because there's some aggression issues, you can't even get out on a walk in the neighborhood super well because there's some aggression issues, sorry, then you're gonna wanna watch this video. Like I said, if you haven't signed up for the free 10-part course, we've got this video is one of 10. This training only works if you've done some of the other trainings, and so you're gonna wanna make sure that you go get it. Down in the description of this video is a link. Click the link, you'll go to a page, and you will get the full 10-part video course. And whether it's aggression, leash pulling, not coming when called, jumping, barking, whatever, that's what this video course is for. So go down in the description, check it out, and watch this video to the end because it's going to help you a ton if you've got some dog aggression. Cool. All right, guys, I want to explain a technique to you. This is one of the most powerful techniques that I've ever come across for helping dogs work through aggression. I don't know any other trainers outside of our company that's doing this, and it's, like I say, it's super powerful. So I want to share it with you. And then I'm going to show you how to do it with your dog. So the technique is something that we call step back recall. And I always tell the story of how we accidentally stumbled upon this technique because it really illustrates a good point. So many years ago, it was 10, 11 years ago, I was working with a dog, and it was a big dog. It was a 160-pound Mastiff or something like that, just a big, big Mastiff. And she was aggressive. She was not just like barky barky. She wanted to attack everything. Everything. Every man, woman, child, dog, cat, person on a bike, skateboard, doesn't matter. If it was living and if it was in her neighborhood, she was going after it. And she had some real intent. And to top it off, the owner, she was a smaller woman. And so it was a rarely, the dog was probably close to twice her size, if not more. And so it was a really hard dynamic to work with. Here's this powerful, large, aggressive dog with an owner that was just, on the smaller side. And so it actually took a full session before I could get near the dog, because that first session I sat in her living room and the dog was clawing at the door for 30 minutes trying to come eat me. And so it took even a bit for me to be able to handle the dog. But once I could handle the dog, I'm a big, strong guy, and I was able to get the dog, using a prong collar. I was able to get the dog to walk well on a leash. She couldn't. The dog was just too strong. So anyways, we decided to use an e-collar, an electric collar. I've got the remote right here. And so at the time, the prevailing wisdom in the dog training community was don't use the e-collar for aggression because it'll make the aggression worse. And you know what? They were totally right. The dog training community was right, because if you've got a dog who's like rah, 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 and you start hitting them with this, most dogs get even like more angry and like rah, 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 they're furious. And so, but I knew that there had to be a way to do it. So we started testing something. And so what would happen is we would be walking down the street. By this time, the dog was at least walking well. We taught her to heel. The dog would see something up ahead. I call it an aggression trigger. Let's say it was just another dog, just for the sake of saying something. And so she sees another dog up ahead, and she would start what I call the aggression snowball. So the aggression snowball is, for some dogs, it's like a quick second. For other dogs, it's 10 seconds, 15 seconds. But what it is, with her, if the dog was far enough away, I don't remember exactly, this was 10, 11 years ago, but she would pause, she'd puff up, the fur would go up, and if the dog got a little bit closer, bark, 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 she's lunging. So it was probably a few seconds. So what we would do is we would, as the dog was getting, as we were walking the dog down the street, and we would see, the trigger coming close, or we were coming close to the trigger, before she had the chance, before the dog had the chance to even get all triggered up and crazy, we would step back, call the dog here, and of course she didn't want to come, so we would use some stimulation from the e-collar. She would come, she would turn right back around, And we would call her again with some stimulation. She would turn right back around and call her again with some stimulation. And if you don't know how to do that, there's another video in this series that you should have watched that teaches you exactly how to do that. But it was over and over and over. We recalled the dog, recalled the dog, recalled the dog. And it probably took 10 or 15 times in order for the dog to finally calm down. Now, I didn't know what this was gonna do. We were just testing. But she starts working on this. And I come back a few weeks later, and now it takes 2 or 3 or 4 corrections. But then the dog will come. So it was improving. It was from 10 to 15 down to 2, 3, or 4. Fast forward another few weeks, now it's maybe 1 or 2 corrections. Fast forward another little bit, and now we're walking down the street. Here comes a trigger, and the dog just looks at her owner. Here comes a bike, she looks at her owner. Here comes a person, looks at her owner. Because what had happened was, the dog's emotional state would, get bigger and bigger and bigger, right? She would get frustrated and she would, she would see something and get bigger. So what we did is we basically paired her emotional state. We said, every time you start feeling that way, I'm back here calling you. Every time you feel that way, I'm back here calling you. Not just calling you, but reinforcing it. Now, when we caught the snowball when it was the smallest, we didn't have to use much stimulation at all. So it was a very humane way to get this done. And it was a very humane way to teach the dog to focus on the owner rather than to focus on the trigger, because that's where the dog was going wrong, right? She was feeling so stressed about that thing. And what we did is we reversed it and said, you don't have to stress about things, you can pay attention to me. And we walk on past and everything's good. And you don't have to stress, pay attention to me, no stress, pay attention to me. So what happened was the dog would be like, I'm feeling a little bit stressed, where's mom? And so we essentially, the dog started self-regulating as time went on, because she started realizing, hey, if I'm feeling nervous, mom's back there calling me, I'd better just, pay attention. And so in the act of doing that, she got so good. In fact, I still remember in our first session, the dog's clawing at the door, and she's like, I just want to take my dog to the farmer's market, because she lived right on the same street as the farmer's market. And I'm like, I don't know, like this dog's trying to kill everybody, I don't know. But in our last session, we went to the farmer's market. The dog did great, ignored everybody, listened to us, paid attention, and did fantastic, all because of all the obedience and structure, plus this method of the step back recall. So I'm gonna share with you right now how we actually do that step back recall. All right, Charleston dog owners, just wanted to give you another way to use this technique, because in this training video, I'm mostly showing and talking about how you can use it to get rid of reactivity or to get rid of dogs who bark and lunge at other dogs and people and stuff like that, which that's what this method was accidentally designed for. Well, it was accidentally discovered and then designed for that. But we've since found that a lot of our clients like to use it for dogs that are really bad at greeting. Some dogs are just, they get so excited. We're talking maybe doorbell, maybe out and about. But there's a new person or new dog and there's no aggression at all. In fact, the opposite, they're so friendly that they're so excited that you lose all this focus and the dog acts like a complete fool and it's embarrassing and it's a problem. And sometimes it brings out aggression in other dogs because your dog's acting all crazy and they're just like, whoa, what are you doing to me? Anyways, so this method is definitely a great method for that. All right, so I'm going to show you how to actually do this step back recall. So the critical thing is, before the dog is triggered. If the dog is already like freaking out and barking and going nuts, you waited too long. So it's before the dog is triggered. So even if your dog has dog aggression, the second your dog notices another dog, start doing this. So what we've got to do, it's all got to be one swift, quick motion, and it looks easy until you actually start doing it. It takes a little bit of practice. And so let's say, the dog was distracted over there. Here, good boy, good. So what I'm doing is I am giving a free command. Again, if you haven't watched the training on how to do the recall, we always give a free command. But with the step back recall, we go a little bit more demanding. So on that second here, I'm already holding on the stimulation. So if I was just practicing recall in my backyard, I would be like, here. And if the dog doesn't come in a second and a half, I'll give a little bit of a correction here. In this one, it's like consecutive, here, and I'm already giving a little bit of stimulation on that one. So if my dog loses focus, here, oh, good boy. Now the second he comes, I'm going to release the button, and I'm going to offer the treat. Here, oh, good boy. So now as I'm doing this, with the step back recall, it's important that you do this after having taught the dog the recall, because I don't want to be pulling on the leash. If I'm pulling on the leash, if you're doing the step back recall, so your dog's trying to get to that dog, person, whatever, or is at least thinking about that dog, person, and I'm pulling on the leash, any leash pressure is going to create frustration. Frustration is going to create even bigger aggression. So we don't want to do that. So every time I do it, here, oh, good boy. I'm using kind of my body language. I'm kind of drawing the dog in, and I'm not pulling on that leash. The only time I would ever pull on that leash is if it was like a dangerous situation where we're kind of in close quarters and I got to get my dog away from whatever that thing is over there. That's the only time I might pull on the leash. Outside of that, I want to make sure that every single time I'm doing this step back recall, I'm stepping back quick at the beginning of the dog's snowball, aggression snowball. I'm giving one free command, but it's followed very fast by a second one with, you know, some low-level stimulation. The dog comes, there's some food, and if the dog turns back around, I'm going to do it again. If the dog turns back around, I'm going to do it again. And I'm going to keep doing this until the distraction is past or the focus is mostly on me. It might take 10 or 20 times, but with repetition, it'll get down to 5 or 10. With repetition, it'll get down to 2 or 3 or 4. And so that's how, like I say, if you can do this step back recall, you're going to find your dog, you know, within a few weeks, typically, focusing way more on you versus the stuff that right now is making them aggressive. Now, this method doesn't live very well alone. So if you're trying to jump to do just this method and you're not doing all the other stuff in this series with, you know, the, you know, teaching the recall, teaching good leash walking, you know, teaching stay behaviors, things like that, you're not going to have a lot of success. This method works best when you've done your groundwork and then you start doing the step back recall. So if several weeks of groundwork, then the step back recall for several weeks, and this is a very clear formula that we have for getting, we've had thousands of dogs now work through aggression. So let's see you get into it. All right, Charleston dog owners, I have personally helped thousands of dog owners with this step back recall method. It's powerful. It can change lives. It can change your life and it can change your dog's life. So make sure that you actually apply this. If you need our help, please reach out to us at tietheDogGuide.com. And while you're at it, go down to the description beneath this video. If you're watching this on YouTube and you haven't done this already, click the link that's inside there because you'll get a free 10-day training course on how we do all sorts of training in Charleston. And yeah, go click on that link and we'll see you on the other training.